Come get a hug. You got a guy. He wants to give her a kiss.
Happy 15th. I love you. I didn't send this to you.
Did you do your chores? What do we have in there?
Oh, Josh.
Where's the catfish?
There's 3 turtles. There's one right there, one over there.
Where's the catfish?
Right there. It's not. It's too small. Oh! For a man.
The super turtle.
It's a turtle.
It's an ugly turtle.
It's an alligator turtle.
Let's
He'll
paint
probably
on it.
hiss at you.
He's got a leech on him.
It's going to his tail.
See his tail? It's big. See his
See his
tail?
head?
I know who you gotta call.
Run. Wait.
Wait,
Wait, stop. I
Watch him
can't
bite it.
see- No.
You watch him bite. Ah, he won't let go.
Let go when it thunders. Look at his tail.
I guess it ended.
Up, look at that. Look at his big old tail. Looks like
Who got that TV
Josh,
controller?
it's gonna be blurry.
See, look. Watch him bite.
Man, he's getting the whole box. Gotta stop to the... Oh, he's
Dang.
taking it in.
He gets hold of your finger, it's a gun.
There's his tail.
He ate the stick.
Wait, let me see.
See, it's in his mouth.
Oh,
Broke
I
off.
thought... Whoa. He broke a big, giant piece of stick.
Yeah, over there when we caught him. He's got a long old neck.
Look at his claws.
You already got that, didn't you?
No.
They're long.
Look at those claws.
He
Wow.
still got that stick in his mouth.
Look at those claws.
Yep, he's still got a stick in his mouth. Looks like it. He looks like, he's got a mustache. Take him.
No way.
Look at those claws.
Kim, I put a stick up to him and he bit it off and it's still in his mouth.
Was this a stick?
Yeah. No, I threw it over there.
Crack or just sometimes they would just smash. They were so soft. And so there weren't any young bald eagle chicks growing up. This went on for 20 years or so. What would happen to a population as the old ones died? Yeah, it's going to shrink. It's going to get smaller and smaller because there aren't any young ones to take their place. So that's what really caused the bald eagle to become endangered, was the use of DDT. We outlawed the use of DDT in the United States, and for those of you who don't know what that is, that's a chemical that we sprayed on the land to kill insects. He's a golden eagle. We have 2 kinds of eagles in the United States, golden eagles and bald eagles, so this is squirrels and things like that. This is a South African Cape vulture. Also are a threatened species, meaning there's not very many of the condors. They've been used as a breeding pair, and their offspring, the young that they've raised, have been taken down to South America where you would find these birds, and they've been released into the wild to bring back like a shrimp.
How big is his wingspan?
About 10 feet. Okay, this is the bald eagle. In order to bring back birds, bald eagles nesting down there, we looked for bald eagle nests. And this is one of our biologists climbing a tree that has a bald eagle nest in it. Whoops. The nest, they can be 8 feet across and 5 feet deep. They can weigh 1 to 2 tons. Eggs are a little bit bigger than a chicken egg, kind of about the size of a duck or goose egg, and you can pass that around. We collected the eggs out of the nest. That's just a plastic egg. And we put them into one of those canisters. Bald eagle only lays 1 to 2 eggs. Sometimes they lay 3 eggs, but they don't lay. And an incubator keeps the eggs at the right temperature so that they will lay. And that egg that's being passed around was a chicken training egg. It's a plastic egg that is the size and weight of a hatch. You can hear them then we would take the egg and put it in the incubator room. Hatching out of the egg, it looks like it's bare, but it does have down feathers on it. It's just the feathers are on that the chick is attached to inside the egg. And here we're fluffing up the down feathers with a toothbrush so the down feathers. Here's a bald eagle chick that's 3 days old.
He looks like he's gonna let go.
And they just get, he'd be able to. It was important that the chicks did not imprint on people. And imprint means that you think the thing that is taking care of you is your parent. We didn't want these eagle chicks to think people were their parents or caretakers, so we took extra precautions. One of the things that we did was we fed the chicks with a puppet. And this is a puppet. And they're always hungry, always wanting food. We fed them 4 times a meal. We fed them quail because we could raise the quail up at the Sutton Center. It was an easy thing to raise. Handle the chicks, we would wear what we called a ghost costume. And it was camouflage material, and there's a little screen here so we could see out. Covered up as much of our body as we could. We didn't talk around them either, so they never heard human voice. Chick is 3 days old, and this one is a month old, 4 weeks. Their feathers in, what we think of as a bald eagle.
3 years.
And at about 7 weeks, they're ready to be released into the wild. Taken to their out in the wild. When they're flying, we could tell one from another. One might have a bleach spot on its left leg feathers, another one on its right leg feathers, or on its breast feathers, or something like that. Loaded up into carrying cases like this. Bird into the wild is called hacking. H-A-C-K-I-N-G. And this is what it's like inside the tower. It's the bird's eye view. It's very similar to being in a nest. They'd need for a day. Up, and the birds could start learning how to fly. The eagles. And we're monitoring them and watching to see how they grow up. It took about 12 to 13 weeks for them to grow up. I survived. They have to learn how to fly. They have to learn how to land. They have to learn how to land in a tree. Eventually, they need to learn how to find food on their own. They leave us, and they decide they're grown up and can take care of themselves. We never stopped feeding them. And
Having close as if you were feeding them?
yes. Except after about 12 to 13 weeks, then they just take off. And then 5, and it ended last year. We released 275, and now we have 3 active nests in Oklahoma. Remember, before the 85, there weren't any. Now we have 3. And there's also one up in Kansas, or there's a couple up in Kansas. And these are birds that are Sutton-released bald eagles. So we're really excited about the progress so far. Next year, there should be more nests, and the year after that, because a lot of our eagles aren't old enough yet to start nesting.
Which state has the most?
Two different types of bald eagles. They're broken into 2 groups, northern bald eagles and southern bald eagles. Southerns are the ones from Oklahoma down to Florida. For southern bald eagles, Florida has the most. For northern bald eagles, and those are eagles you would find from Colorado all the way up into Alaska and Canada, probably Alaska has the most. It's the biggest area that's undisturbed by people, so there are more of them there. Where we released a lot of our bald eagles. This is how Sequoia travels with this leather hood on his head. When he has lens of your eye, or the eye, that prevents good vision. Because Sequoia had cataracts, we did not release him because we didn't think he'd have the vision that he'd need in order to survive in the wild. Right, to catch fish and see his prey from a long distance. So we didn't release him, and we've kept him as an education bird. He's 5 years old now, so he's just reaching maturity. I don't know why he does that.
How long do they live?
They can live to be about 20 years old in the wild, and captivity at a zoo or a place like the Sutton Center, they could live to be around 40.
How long is the wingspan?
Sequoia's wingspan is probably around 5 to 5.5 feet. We've never wrestled them down to measure it, but that's what I would guess, something like that. As I said, at 5 years old, they're mature. Hold still and don't swing that thing around, please. At around 5 years is when they would find a mate and start nesting.
And they turn their head in the full circle?
No, they can turn their head about 3/4 of the way around. So if you think of a clock, from about 12 o'clock to 9 o'clock, they could move their head that far. But they can't go all the way around. Sequoia is a wild animal. He is not a pet. He does not belong to me or the Sutton Center. We only have him with permission from the federal government. And the federal government gives us that permission because there is something wrong with him. He can't live in the wild on his own. The other eagles that we have all been injured in some way, and that's why we have them. They've either been shot, and so they have a wing that's broken and will never heal, or they have a missing eye, or something like that. That's the only way you can have the bald eagle, because it is an endangered species. Let's see. It's against the law to hunt them. It's against the law to have one, like someone was mentioning, capturing one and raising it. And it's against the law to even have the feather of a bald eagle unless you have a permit from the government that says you can have that feather. So technically, if you find a bald eagle feather on the ground, you are to leave it there and not take it home with you, because you have to have a permit to have those. The reason why they have that law is because the government can't tell if someone found a feather or they killed the animal to get it. And there are plenty of people who will kill bald eagles in order to get it. And if they get those feathers, they sell them. So as long as there's a market and people will buy the feathers, then they will continue to do that. So that's why there's that real stiff law about that. He is also wild because he's not tame. He has been raised by us. He's been around people all his life for 5 years. But the most you can say is he tolerates me. I'm the only one who handles him, really, because it's better to have one person that they get used to than a lot of people handling him. And I would never try to pet him because he would probably bite my hand. You know, he just puts up with me. That's about all you can say, because he's just a wild animal. Not like a pet.
What's your glove made out of?
What?
Is the glove made out of leather?
Yeah, the glove's welding glove. It's leather and it has a heavy padding inside.
Did he stretch through it?
He could, if something really frightened him, they have the strength that he could go through this glove. Yes.
How much
But-
does it weigh? How much does it weigh?
Sequoia weighs 7 pounds.
Dang, that's not very much.
He's a small eagle, and I'll explain why. There's a real range in eagle sizes. There are 2 factors involved in their size. One is if they're a southern bald eagle or a northern bald eagle. Eagles in the south are smaller than eagles you would find in the north. The other factor is their sex. Males in all birds of prey are smaller than females. So the females are larger. So Sequoia is a male southern bald eagle. That puts him in the small range for bald eagles. He weighs 7 pounds. A female northern bald eagle could weigh 18 to 20 pounds. be almost 3 times the size of sequoia here. So a bald eagle can be much larger than he is. I don't think I could handle one that weighed 18 to 20 pounds now. 7 pounds gets pretty heavy after a while. Let's see. What are the qualities that you think would make a bald eagle a good hunter?
His sharp claws.
Uh-huh.
They usually have good eyesight.
Okay, good eyesight. All birds of prey, and that means hawks, falcons, owls, eagles, and vultures, all have great eyesight. An eagle has about 8 times the eyesight of a human. They can see a rabbit in the grass a mile away. If they could read, they say they'd be able to read tiny newspaper print from across a football field 1,000 feet away.
Wow.
You might want to measure in science class how far away can you read newspaper print. It'd be a good test, and then compare that to an eagle. So their eyesight is excellent. What else? Yes, back there.
His claws.
Okay, claws. On birds of prey, we call those talons. That is their weapon, and that is what they kill their prey with. Yes, their talons. They have incredible strength in their feet. As I said, he could go through this glove if he were very frightened or startled in some way. That's also why, if you look at the means that I have of handling him, I have control of his feet. That is the thing for me to always keep control of. It's the first thing I do when I go in to pick him up is to get a hold of the leather around his feet, his legs, so he can't, grab a hold of me with his talons. As long as I have a hold of his feet, I'm safe. Okay, the beak is the other thing that makes him a good hunter. And he's asking, would he pinch me, would he bite me? He's never bitten me. It's not their instinct to use their beak as a weapon. It's an eating tool. So unless he was curious about my skin as something to eat, he wouldn't usually bite me. But like I said, if I reached my hand up to pet him, he would bite it because that's the only thing he could use. I've got control of his feet, so he'd have to use his beak. No, he couldn't really use those.
How do you stretch his wing? How does he get his wings exercised so they don't stick up?
They flap them around. They're tied. They have a block, a post that they sit on that they're tied to. But they still have some rope so they can fly a little bit. Or they can hop around. They flap their wings just to exercise them. But he doesn't have the wing strength that a wild eagle would have. They have very strong, wild eagles would have very developed muscles in through their breast area. And he doesn't have that. He's a weakling.
Could he fly?
Huh? Could he fly? If he tried to fly now, if he got loose, away, not in this room, but out in the wild, he wouldn't be able to get very far because he doesn't have the muscles.
What does that mean?
He'd get tired very fast.
See, when you can probably catch him.
Can he fly to the end?
Well, I don't know if I could catch him, but he wouldn't get very far. Okay. Sometimes he'll fly off of my hand, and he can only, when he does that, he can't get anywhere because I've got a hold of the rope. But when he does that, he tires out very fast, which is good for me because it's tiring on my arm to hold him in. But he tired, within half a minute, he's tired and he's just hanging in. He can't keep himself up anymore. Mm-hmm.
Every time he flies, does it make that eagle sound?
Oh, not very often. And he wouldn't do it in this situation. Now, eagles, we're talking about their wing strength. They can fly at about 50 miles an hour. And they also can lift their own weight in prey and fly off with it. So Sequoia could catch a fish and fly off with it that weighed 7 pounds. And if you think of yourself, could you lift your own weight? Could you lift your friend and run around with them? No. So they have a lot of strength in their wings. that. Their feet are a reflex. They don't have control of them, the mind control like we have with our hands, like pick up, let go. They can't do that with their feet. And once they latch onto something in the hunting instinct and they really grab a hold of it, they can't just tell their feet to let go. And so sometimes they'll catch a fish that's too big, they can't fly off, and they can't let go, and sometimes they'll drown. Doesn't happen very often. Every once in a while there's a report of it.
You guys ever, does he ever, like, just fly around?
No,
Is that
it's
the
never
amount of-
free. It would be too dangerous. Sequoia when he was a young bird. Before he was 3 years old, as I said, they're all brown and have a dark beak. So at 3 years old is when they start getting a white head and tail and eventually a yellow beak, like he has now.
That's pictured here.
I've just been handling Sequoia for a year. There are many opportunities to get some experience now. The best thing to do is to do some volunteer work. The zoo has a volunteer program. Oxley Nature Center has a volunteer program here in Tulsa. A lot of veterinarians take on volunteers to help them out, the SPCA. There's a lot of places where you can go to get some experience working with animals, so I encourage you to do that.
Why does their beak change?
Why does it change color? It has to do with their diet. It has to do with the vitamins in their diet, and that's what causes, it's the keratin in their diet that causes them to change color.
How about they don't get any?
Well, okay, that's a good question, because Sequoia's eyes are brown, and a mature bald eagle usually has yellow eyes. And it's one of the things that makes them look so intense. And you might want to look for a picture of a bald eagle in a book to see their yellow eyes. And it's because of his diet, we think, that he doesn't have yellow eyes. We feed them quail up at the Sutton Center because that's something we can raise, not fish, which is his normal diet. And because of that, we think just because of the nutrients in the food, his eyes haven't turned color yet.
Are their feet always yellow?
Yeah. So the diet is important, and it's one stay quiet too while I'm doing this because he fusses sometimes, and then it's harder to. Yeah, that was easy. Last time I had a real hard time of it.
Cherokee. How does a bald eagle chew its prey?
They don't. They just rip bite-sized pieces of meat and swallow it. Because of that, it's interesting point. He is asking how do they chew their food. They don't chew it. They just rip it apart and swallow pieces whole. Because that they don't chew, they cough up pellets, usually once a day. And I don't know if you've heard about owl pellets.
Yeah.
That or a casting they're called sometimes. It's the part of their diet they can't digest, so it's fur and feathers and bones. And they'll cough that up once a day, throw it up, and it's just a pellet. It dries out. It doesn't smell. And all birds of prey do that.
Do you cut off the toenails for them?
Oh, just the very tip when they start getting real sharp, because sometimes they can get very sharp, and then they'll get. Well, this is their natural length. We don't cut them short. We just cut the very sharp tip off sometimes.
How does it?
I got two of them. Is Sequoia a full-grown bird?
Yes, he's full grown. They're full grown at about 10 weeks. They're not mature yet. They're not grown up, but they're as big as they're going to
Do
get.
they have any actions? Do they have any dances called a maid?
Do they have any what?
Kind of like dances or something like that?
Oh, do they have any rituals with their mates? One of the things, they're not sure if this is a mating ritual or not yet, but bald eagles will fly very high in the sky, and they will fly at each other and grab a hold of each other with their talons. Their feet will grapple together, and then they'll just tumble through the sky because they can't fly in that manner. So they just tumble and fall through the sky, and just before they hit ground, they let go and they fly off. That's one thing. Okay, last question. Yes. They don't. Just the natural using them keeps them sharp. His wings again. I don't like to do it when he's got his hood on, because sometimes he loses his balance because he can't see. So, okay.
Vernon, you hit Vernon. Jason, yeah, Jason. Stop. Dwayne.
Flag salute this morning will be led by Mr. Ray Bates, VFW Post 9077. Would you stand? Mr. Salim. Chapter 1 Language Arts, Mrs. Pics. We started these boards, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and the Cherokee Lions Club 6 years ago, rather. And DFW had presented these boards each year, and we sort of appreciate that too.
Appreciate the opportunity to participate in your activities here. And we just feel in our organizations that it's very important that we be a part of this community. And what better way can you serve your community than to show honor and respect for the children of your schools? We can't beat that, can we? So this morning,